Hello and welcome to another Project Caesar E5 Tinto Talks video where I talk about what Tinto Talks is talking about. Now, yesterday I put up a video about Tinto Talks number 5 and the header image was the one that you can see right here. Some of the comments in response to that were saying that they didn't like that it felt so gloomy and dark and dingy and all that. And so Johan put up a post basically saying, "Yeah, I was playing as Aragon, so that all of this is basically fog of war." So he was kind enough to present us with this map, which is so much nicer. Obviously, it's much brighter. We actually get a little bit more information. And yeah, things are looking great there. In the top, you can see this will be the Golden Horde, which are kind of cracked at this point. And also, we can see a little bit of a Theodoro up there. This is a cute little Theodoro. It's a very cute, sweet Theodoro. But also, Naples looks a lot less pink in this than they did in this shot. Obviously, we can only see the absolute tip of Naples here. The I can't even remember what that part is called. But now that we have more of Naples being shown, it is a more reasonable color. And of course, they have personal union or vassalship over the Achaia area north of what the Byzantines hold in Laconia. The Peloponnese, basically. It's split between them. And also, I did say that, Epirus was colored here because they were a vassal of the Byzantines. There are more countries, of course, that people have pointed out in my comment section that are also in vassalship situations. The one that I should not have missed, but did, was Crete. Candia, as they are calling it, is underneath the Venetians. And we can also see very, very up here, the tip top over here, we can see that Venice actually has direct control over Ragusa. It actually does say Venice there, which was not something that many people expected. There was a few forum threads about how Venice should in fact be an independent nation at this point. I would not know one way or the other whether that's true or not. I don't know this period as well as I maybe should do. But hey, I'm willing to go and learn. But yeah, that's something that people have pointed out as maybe an issue. I don't know if one would call it an issue. But yeah, he put up the post saying this is basically today's screenshot without the fog of war. It's fantastic stuff. But today's video is more about other things that Johan has said. Because, of course, we can go into Tinto Talks number 5. And there we can click show only dev responses. And Johan has been pretty prolific. I'm not going to lie. He's been very prolific. If we just have a look at his profile a moment, there's a lot. There's a whole lot that he has said recently that we are going to go and have a gander at. So, let's get into it, and obviously we'll move past the original post. Although, one thing I do want to say is there was a bit of conversation, though I don't believe I saw very much of it in the standard places with people talking about this stuff. This was something that I saw quite a lot in the YouTuber Discord. Basically, wondering whether this is AI generated or not. Mostly looking at the people in the background. I would argue or wager that no. And while Paradox is open about using AI in some of their images, most notably in the Persia DLC for CK3 is the one that it's very obvious to me that it's AI. This one, I don't see it as that. It looks more like just a work in progress piece of art, right? Crowds in the background, they're just, made as little smudges, and, maybe later, if this art is continued to be worked on, this will be improved in detail, but not to the level of, King What's-His-Face of France. Well, let's be honest, it's probably a Louis. But yeah, this was something that I'd seen commented on, not as a way of, oh, I hate AI art, why are they using it, but more of a case of, I wonder if people are going to complain about them using AI art. But anyway, that's just something I want to point out before we move on to the replies. Cody Wolf asking, will naval passages like the Bosphorus, Dardanelles, etc. be controllable? Like, if Denmark can control the Danish belts, it gives some incentive for a country like Germany to build the Kiel Canal, is what I assume he's saying. There are mechanics for those patches that will be revealed later. So it's not really much of a insightful comment. Like, oh yeah, we're talking about this later. Though it is something I am commenting on because I want to. I have ideas and I like sharing ideas. One thing that really annoys players especially in multiplayer late game EU4 when the Suez Canal is built, is that regardless of who owns the canal, their enemies can still sail through it without any worry whatsoever. And I do very much hope that this is addressed. And I know it has been addressed in, for example, Hearts of Iron. You can prevent your enemies from crossing both the Straits of Gibraltar and also the Suez Canal, completely locking off the Mediterranean if you control those access points. And it's something that I really want to see in EU5 as well. If I control the Suez Canal later in the game, I want the ability to say, no, enemy, you may not use my canal for your war. Or even, honestly, quite simply, if I control the canal and I want to ruin, say, I don't know, Italy's trade with India, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do it in a hostile but peaceful way. And obviously, maybe Italy is going to be less than pleased about my attempts at blocking their trade, so it will not remain peaceful. But that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see that kind of ability to lock off the straits. That would be really fantastic for me, I think. Saying about laughing at the words in front of the keyboard. Basically, what he is referring to is this first line, which I think I actually missed in my video. Welcome to the 5th Tinto Talks, where we talk about the design for the upcoming top secret game with codename Project Caesar. He is well aware, obviously, because he's not stupid, that everyone is of the opinion that this is EU5. This is no secret. So yeah, very, very. I mean, it is kind of funny. I think, like I said, everyone is aware. It's an open secret. Let's see, but I do think that it's going to probably be announced properly sometime this year. Probably later in the year, it would be my guess. Though I've seen some actually wild guesses about the game actually being released this year, which I think is a little bit optimistic, Ludi. Anyway, can estates force through new changes and reforms if they're dissatisfied and powerful enough? There are, in fact, ways for that. Fantastic. Even if you don't call a parliament, they are able to do that. Good. More autonomy for estates and making the world feel more alive is just awesome. It's just awesome. A guy here having a very good time sharing his hype with his son. It's awesome as well. What happens if one of the estates gets 100% land or power? They can't, as power percentage is normalized distribution. In EU4, it is possible for estate influence to go way higher than 100%, which is also, I mean, it's not crown land, so it's kind of different, but at the same time, it's possible to get, like, say, your merchant's estate or the burger's estate to, like, 200%, and some of the benefits you can get from that are insane. There are ways to get modifiers that stack up regarding the amount of influence that the estate has, and it's uncapped. So as many things that you can find to increase the influence will increase your modifier. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think there's some combat-oriented ones, some discipline ones in the Indian estates, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while since I've played there. But yeah, calling diet, giving +5 influence, you just spam that and you win, I guess. Anyway, estates have wealth and can build on their own, it seems. Somebody played Mayo here. It's what I said. Basically, my video was taking influence from Mayo and taxes. But apparently, Johan has never played Mayo in Texas beyond testing it. Though, like I said, he does have employees from the mod. Alderon is one that I pointed out. Saying employees, though, maybe there's more than one. And Jigo is the lead of Mayo in Texas right now, and also a good friend of my own. So, yeah, I also enjoy talking with them. There's a fun experience that I had at PDXCon 2018, where I was hanging around the Mayo and Taxes table, and Quill 18 is also coming up and talking to them, and was saying that he had watched somebody playing the new update for M&T that wasn't out yet, and it turns out that he was watching me because there was only two people, myself and Christo, who were playing it, and he was watching the Austria one. So that was I don't know why I'm bringing that up. It's not really relevant to this, but it made me happy, so I'm going to share it. It's cool. Derfoot loves the map. He's wondering if there might have already been answered. Like all major last releases, achievements won't be tied to Iron Man anymore. Johan is an believer that achievements should always require Iron Man, and I am kind of on the fence. I don't care, really, is what I am, really. I have 0 achievements in EU4. Literally none. I am not... I have achievements in other Paradox games, but I do not have them in EU4. 8,000 hours, 0 achievements. I don't know. Well, I do know, and we'll go into why in a moment, because it's also clarified here, and also it was on the thumbnail. Can we expect estate privileges to be revoked as an instant click if the requirements are fulfilled, or be a process such as passing a law in Vicky 3? Technically, it's just a click to remove it, but the consequences may not be something you're willing to live through. So, a bit like removing the privileges in E4, if your estates go disloyal, then you will have issues. I guess the consequences here will be probably higher than in EU4. Can estates do things on their own? Yes, perfect. Will the demands, bonuses, and equilibrium of the distant estates depend on the state's culture, government, or tag? Those impact the tools you can use. However, there's no you play Scotland, so your nobles have -10 satisfaction. Good. Though this does make me think that national ideas may be on the way out, because this is certainly something that I could have seen. And honestly, if I look around enough, I could probably find something with, a tag that has loyalty of estate or loyalty of clergy +10. Something along those lines I could totally see being in EU4. It's totally possible. It is a modifier that can go there. So, it makes me think that maybe these are out on the way out, or simply that there are no tags in EU5 that will have that. Are there any crown privileges? There is a chance for those, so hopefully we'll be getting some crown privileges. That would be nice. Will countries start with set privileges, or will the slots be almost empty as in EU4? They'll mostly start with historical privileges and be set up in a way to not have a brewing civil war at the start. I would argue that there are 2 very, very big examples of countries that should have a brewing civil war at the start. Those being the Romans, the Byzantines, and also Great Yuan. Both of those should have a setup and a situation with mostly using their estates and the privileges, where they will have a civil war at the start of the game. Almost like something that is avoidable if you really try hard enough and get lucky, but something that is almost guaranteed to happen in basically every game. Purely because Yuan needs to collapse. Let's be fair. Yuan needs to collapse for that region to be fun to play in, for starters. They are a little bit too big to be allowed to thrive without issue. And Byzantium, purely because firstly, it's historical, but also, at the moment with the breakup of Anatolia, and go back to the map here, they are the big boy on the block until they get to the Mamluks and the Jalairids. They really do need some kind of roadblock, and making that an internal roadblock is both historical and also probably it's just the most historical one. which, I do think would be a better situation. Will rulers still will a ruler's skill still factor into things? It'll impact other things we'll talk about later. So we've already had it confirmed that mana is not going to be a thing in EU5, which is fantastic, obviously. But I do think rulers should still impact things. In Imperative Rome, after the removal of mana, ruler stats still affected things, and you did want a ruler with really good stats. Things like their commerce value affected how much trade income you made. Their military value, both as as their skill as a general, and also I think like manpower recovery or something along those lines. Those stats did affect things, and also traits. I do think should make a return because traits are honestly kind of fun. I like them. We'll be able to toggle impassable terrain, like the wasteland being the same color as the country that most borders with. It's a toggle, and Johan has it off. I like to have it turned on. I like the wasteland being colored in. It makes maps look nicer, but yeah, you can turn it off. Johan has here it turned on, so all the wastelands are very visible. If you turn that off, then this wasteland here would be colored in purple, and that would just be a better situation for a lot of people. Why is the map so dark? Yeah, fog of war, we've already seen that. Moving down a little bit, to look at the map, you notice that they don't display their full names, like the Crown of Aragon in the previous Tinto talk. Will it be possible to have these names displayed instead on the map? Some rules are there, so that when countries are smaller, they get a shorter name, which is a very interesting way of doing things. Like, again, if we go back to the map, maybe the Ottomans will be the Ottoman Empire if they have enough land. Byzantine Empire, though, it seems to, this little piece also gets just called Byzantine Empire. Maybe this bit should just be called Byzantine if it's small enough. I don't know. But maybe it's talking about, like, the country as a whole. If the country as a whole gets small enough, then this would change. Though I don't know specifically what this guy is referring to. Obviously, he said the Crown of Aragon, but we have never seen that. So, I don't know where he's getting that from, but, maybe we'll see that in a future talk. He said it's the Crown of Aragon in the previous Tinto talk, but I don't... Was Aragon even talked about in the previous Tinto talk? I don't think it was. No, I really don't think it was. I don't know. Either way, maybe if somebody in the comments knows what he's referring to here, let me know, because I'm curious. Civil War mechanics, will they be in for Rebels? Yeah, so the closest we have for them is like Imperator, where if you have a Rebel faction and they fire the Rebel faction, you will get a new tag popping up that you then have to fight in a war, same as like fighting any other country. That's great. I like that way more than Rebels just occupying part of your country. I think turning it into a war is probably for the best. Not for every kind of Rebels, but certainly the ones for estates, yes, that makes total sense for me. I like that. Next page, like I said, there's 4 pages of this. Dev posts, it's kind of cracked. Does it make sense to have estate power based on population? A province having 5 noble families, there are no families that we know of, I think, instead of 1 noble family doesn't make the nobility in the province 5 times more powerful. In fact, the nobility would probably be weaker if split among smaller houses. I think basically what he's talking about here is that the amount of power that the nobles have is based on the amount of nobles there are. They give power per pop that they control, and we can see that if we go to here. Every 1,000 nobles gives 50 estate power to the estate. Basically, his argument is this shouldn't scale linearly because 500 nobles might have more power than 1,000 nobles, and it maybe shouldn't be based on just pure numbers. Because as the amount of nobles goes up, the share of available power should maybe go down. But it is one of the abstractions they're willing to make. I guess that's fine. Like every game, every Paradox game, of course, should have some layer of abstraction. It's kind of not possible to not. So, yeah, makes sense sometimes to have it. Weird black borders between land and sea stay, because they feel real disconnected, and the islands in Greece do not look as good as they could do. I do kind of agree with this. The kind of like shadow here looks fine at the Black Sea, but looking here in the archipelago of Greece that does kind of look a bit ugly. There actually have been quite a lot of complaints about the map in general, but we haven't seen all of the different map modes. We know, for example, that there's going to be a map mode that is taken basically from Imperator Rome, a political map mode that will show terrain, is what I've heard. I'm pretty sure Johan has confirmed it as well, but I would have to go and check again. So we haven't seen all of the map modes. It may be that, Johan blesses us with a terrainier map mode showing undulations and mountains and stuff. But yeah, right now we just have the flat version that I do like for screenshots, but for play I do prefer something more Imperator-esque. Will the localization for different cultures and countries, or do you anticipate unique estates? Unfortunately, there will not be any unique estates. This is one thing that I'm not actually a fan of, because I do think having, a Cossack's estate, having a Rajput's estate, having a Janissary's estate, having all these different kinds of estates was a benefit to the game. I do honestly believe that. I do think it is a good thing to have more individuality in the estates. It's kind of unfortunate that that's not going to be the case here, but maybe that could be something that's revisited if people make a strong enough argument that they should be in. Consider this my preliminary request to revisit that, Johan. An estate with no pops will have no power nor any impact. Talking about the granularity of the map, obviously we've seen that it is very, very granular, to the point where Andorra is on the map. That's good. The fact that he only points out Andorra where the commenter asks about San Marino and Monaco and Liechtenstein is interesting, though I think Liechtenstein is probably big enough. Monaco apparently was bigger at the time. San Marino is a little bit too small, but maybe it will be in. Maybe it will be in anyway. The food production is mentioned when we learn more about that sometime after summer. Like I said, food production kind of makes me think that we have a supply system involved. Talking about it after the summer also kind of reinforces that idea, because it's far enough away that by then we might be talking about military issues. So talking about food production in the topic of military kind of seems pretty exciting, but maybe that's just my own hype. It could totally be. Option to enable Cold Wasteland, saw that. Why is it dark? Fog of War. He does repeat himself a little bit, obviously, because people don't read absolutely every comment like Johan clearly did. How come the peasant satisfaction is linked with food production? Because if a peasant with a full belly is more satisfied than a peasant with an unfull belly, maybe. It was peasants that grew the food back then, but they couldn't really refuse to do that if they were unhappy with the king, since they'd starve otherwise. Is the explanation that they would withhold the taxes the food encompasses? I think the link here is if the peasants are unhappy, the food goes down. It's simply that an unhappy and a rebellious peasant is not working just as efficiently as before. So yeah, food output may drop maybe 20% if they're in full revolt. So they still make food, just less. Makes sense. And also just keeping more for themselves. Levies, that means standing armies aren't in the game until mid to late game unless appropriate, right? Yes. ... That is certainly a... come on. You can't just put a ... Of course, levies do make more sense for this era. And transitioning from a levy-based feudal society into the early modern period is, I believe, going to be the main thrust of the game, which I'm totally happy with. Very much a cool idea. 2 questions. Will every member of each state have equal contribution to a state power? For example, can be one very powerful noble in the realm, or is that modeled by concentration of nobles in a specific area? It all depends on what exists in the location they live in. And how will the number of people belonging to a state change over time by your policies, their well-being, or by the trends of the age, perhaps, and it depends on the social class pyramid of the country. Trends of age is something that I think was in a previous Tinto talk, somebody asking about, can we have like the age pyramid thing? And Johan's response was something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, maybe in 10 years, Paradox Games can model pop ages, so that we can have an age pyramid thing. We've already seen the borders of Anatolia last week. Could we get a new area? Basically did it because we worked hard to find the start date. Though, I would argue it wasn't so hard. I feel like when you show Anatolia in a place that a lot of people know very well and that had borders shifting very, close to this period, to the point where it was able to be guessed within like a several month period, I feel like it wasn't so hard. How is total power divided between the crown and the estates relative to each other? Use the numbers from the devd area as an example. If we were to grant free mobility to the commoners, would the crown's power drop from 23 to 3, or would it be recalculated across the board, changing every estate's power value? It would recalculate all of them, as the peasant share is basically 1.2x of before. Yes. Basically, I'm talking about here with the various laws that you can pass here. Was there a commoner law being showed here? Here, yes. So it's basically plus 20%. He was asking if this changes this to this one here to plus 20%, or does it change, it's additive versus multiplicative, basically, is the question. So it recalculates everyone. The peasants just get 1.2x. That 20% is based on the 1. So I think that's multiplicative. Paradox math. More populous nations have inherently stronger estates. No, because the total estates can never be over 100. Slaves give absolutely no power whatsoever. Makes sense, though I do believe it is mentioned at some point that you can experience slave revolts, and if we have slave revolts, we're probably going to get that in a new imperator-style civil war system. So slave countries, like in Haiti, the rebellion in Haiti, could certainly be a thing that we experience. If the power of the state is calculated from the population, how is the crown calculated? From total population. Makes sense. If you play a country, you can have a government reform that doesn't allow nobility. There'll be another state that supply their bonuses, or you simply lose it. Every country has an elite class, which is interesting, and there was a lot of commentary on him commenting on communists here. Oh, is the game going to the 1900s because we have communists? No, he clarifies that it's merely that every country, every different system has an elite class, and the most prevalent example of a system that should not have an elite class, the communists, also have an elite class. So that was basically what he was mentioning here. So it is, going back to the comparison EU5 to EU4, it is different because there are certain government reforms, certain government types that do disallow nobility. It's almost funny that the one that disallows it most prevalently is having parliament. Getting a parliament reform disallows or disables the noble's estate, which is very funny, considering in England, for example, the people sitting in Parliament were, for the most part, the nobles. But yeah, no, it's just mentioning you probably won't be getting rid of any of your estates. And considering the slaves don't have an estate, then, even banning slavery isn't going to change anything in that front. How will the new pop-in estate system model a reformation? It's a longer process and involved many more options along the centuries, from Lollards to Hussites and Lutherans to Calvinists. I like that there are more branches, and they're actually named. Reformed really isn't like a thing. It's, I think, mostly what EU4 refers to as Reformed is Calvinist. Protestant is Lutheran. Hussites are named properly, and I don't think Lollards exist at all. But, seeing them in properly will be very nice, especially Hussites, because Jan Hus was in, 1404, and, the game will have that, a year in the game, so very excited to see how that goes on. Bohemia, I think, going to be a very fun campaign. What good are the mountain-related wastelands if you can't feel them? Same is true for the other map modes that we've shown so far. Like I said, he's only showing the flat map mode so far, so at some point we will see proper undulations in the maps, and I'm excited. Is the influence or population of an estate in a location influenced by what's in them? Many factors you'll learn about in the next few months. Tease. Very much a tease. He's currently on holiday. I believe he's in Sweden right now. For Easter. And I guess he didn't comment for a while, but yeah. Moving on, next page. Can nobles and burghers also affect research? Yes, all of them do. I think this is also referring to the fact that literacy is a thing. So, pop literacy affecting research, and then the clergy also affecting research will be good. Again, talking about the flat map. How does the estate power evolve during conquest and vassal integration? Proportionally to the assimilated pops, culture, and religion. So it's based on the societal class of the population maps to the estates. So if you increase your percentage of burghers after a conquest is all done, you're likely to get their estate more powerful. It just makes sense. He just noticed that Venice owns a few regions of land on the map, and they're just called Venice. Same with Genoa, they're simply called Genoa. It seems like the dynamic naming mentioned in Tinto Talk 4 only occurs for certain countries, as most of them, Serbia, blah blah blah, don't have dynamic names, at least not at the start of the game. I would personally much prefer to have each country have titles like Kingdom of Serbia, Serene Republic of Venice, etc., etc. They do, just on the map you have to fit the name in as well, so I think he's basically saying about the shortened names based on the amount of area, but again... Oh, we can see this is a little bit small. Maybe this should just be Byzantines or preferably Romans. It'd be nice if this was more consistent, I guess. Maybe it needs to go below a certain threshold. And I guess if we could see if there was a name here in Philadelphia, then maybe we would see something there. Beyond renaming each group, will different countries get different power structures, like clergy providing nobility and or burgher attributes? No, because that's awful to keep balanced. Cool. Stability will be talked about in 3 to 4 weeks. I very much hope that we're getting an Imperator style stability system, 0 to 100, equilibrium of 50. This guy has played Imperator, of course. Hopefully we'll see that. Or something along those lines. Well, the estate mechanic's going to have a linear action sequence. We'll always try to reduce its power. I don't think that was the case in EU4. Sometimes having strong estates was better, like for the aforementioned scaling bonuses that you can get. Like something in Vic 3 where you try to reduce it, blah, blah, blah. So what Johan likes to do is have one strong estate which he can rely upon when calling a parliament. I guess that certainly works. It also depends on the country. Like, I imagine Venice would much prefer to have a strong burghers. The Papal States will probably want to have a very strong clergy, and maybe France wants a really strong nobility. Something along those lines. Will there be other estates in the future? He doubts it. I do hope it is reconsidered. It is one of the comments that has the most respectfully disagrees. I do hope that's reconsidered. I do like more unique estates. As in the strongest malice when they're upset with you, nerfing research and Diplo rep. I guess this is talking about the how when you have disloyal estates, they will give you malices instead of bonuses. We can actually have a look exactly. Strongest nerf. That's what the dude was talking about. Only complaint worries that clergy seem to have the strongest nerf, so he's talking about the strongest malice when they're upset with you. I don't know how we can tell that from what we saw. Like, maybe it is something. If they impact your research speed and diplomatic reputation, if they're disloyal, maybe you would lose that, and he thinks that is more important than prestige, counter-espionage, merchants, production, food, and stability. I mean, I guess that's what he's thinking, but I guess that's been clarified. Riemann was very unhappy. Riemann's Paradox is a fellow YouTuber who I think is not recording quite some time, but Riemann was unhappy that the Johann said about Iron Man being required for achievements. His idea is that people can just get around Iron Man with cheat engine and other such situations, and this really just affects people who like mods. But Johan clarifies it will be Iron Man only, which initially did worry me, because while I'm fine with Iron Man, that's not a problem for me. There's other reasons as to why I have no achievements. It ain't the Iron Man. But yeah, Riemann had a bit of an issue with it, saying it's a silly position to hold. Whatever. In terms of modding capability, does there have to be a one-to-one correspondence between pop type and estate? Could a pop be split among multiple estates? Yes. Are slave revolts possible? Yes. Can you clarify, where a noble gets X power per noble pop, the crown gets X divided by some what? Christo with the bloody algebra. There are lots of factors, but at the base, the crown gets X amount of power per population. Makes sense. It is an abstraction, but that's fine. And again, this is what I was talking about with the mentioning of communism. Wait, are we going to 1848? No, all human societies end up with AIDS. Makes sense. It'll be based on the local power of nobles, clergy, peasants over the counties and locations I conquer. What about the dhimmis? Are they not listed in the base 4 estates? So yeah, this would basically, again, dhimmis are another really important estate for the Ottomans that apparently will not be in EU5. And I don't know. I do feel like that is a mistake. But they're most likely heathens or non-accepted cultures, so they'll have no political power. I guess we just need to reframe what an estate is, but again, I do hope that is reconsidered. Pops will migrate, fantastic. Also, you expect 20% noble power to be more dangerous than commoner, or can the threat be considered equal? So 20% nobles and 20% commoners is equal. Will there be a different name for call parliament mechanic between different government types? Even if it's mechanically the same, sound weird if a government system where there's no parliament, players still have to call it. They won't call it if they don't have it. Okay. Speaking of achievements, we have to activate Lucky Nations. There is no Lucky Nations mechanic in this game. Let's go. That is entirely my jam. I like that there is no Lucky Nations. 6 years ago, I made this video. Arguments against using Lucky Nations in EU4. Because
the worst mechanic.
Shush me. Because I think Lucky Nations is a terrible mechanic. I don't think I did too much editing here, but maybe I did a little bit. Lucky Nation bonuses are crazy and do not apply to the reasons why these nations are considered lucky in history. So, yes, get rid of that shit. It is awful. Thank you, Johan. I don't know if you have ever watched this video, but yeah, that's good. I like that it's gone. I might get achievements. Out of curiosity, are the estates hard-coded? Can modders change their numbers? Yeah. So, yeah, modders having abilities to do things, good. I like. Will the personal unions change in Caesar? Yes, fantastic. I really hope that we get some kind of family tree system so that we can actually see that. I know that's kind of a controversial thought, though. A lot of people disagree with that, but I don't care. I agree with me. Is there a drawback? I assume having a strong nobility means you can easily pass pro-nobility reforms, but not really other things. It depends on what kind of country you want. So if you want a strong nobles estate, if you want to, I imagine, get lots of manpower from the nobles or something like that, then you can. What's the mechanic stopping me from favouring one estate since 1337 and creating a 100% burger trade empire? Nothing. If that's what you want to do, you go and do it, fam. Do levies pull from all pops or just commoners? It pulls from all of them. Very interesting. Modders can change stuff. They can be modded. Good. Is Parliament here separate from Diet? It's basically the same thing. That is good, I think. I like the Diet system in EU4. I hate the Parliament system in EU4. If we have basically the Diet now in EU5, in the Call of Parliament, totally fine with that. It's a good system. It's a good system. But anyway, that is the end of these. I could go into the other ones, but this video is already way too long already. If you would like more information on EU5, feel free to click the subscribe button, because I will be covering this game in detail throughout its development, unless we have a watershed moment with like a Victoria 3 warfare dev diary for EU5, something along those lines, which completely kills all my hype. Unless we have that, I'm going to continue covering this game. So hit the subscribe button, like the video, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one, which will be tomorrow. I already have it recorded. It's ready to go. So stay tuned for another video tomorrow. Bye bye.